Hi, welcome to Impact, a production of Wayfinders Business Cooperative. My name is Randal Adcock. I'm president of Wayfinders Business Cooperative. And today we're here with Martin Garber-Conrad, Chief Executive Officer of Edmonton Community Foundation. Welcome, Martin.
Thank you, Randall.
So tell us a little bit about Edmonton Community Foundation. What's that about?
Well, we're an endowment-based foundation, just about the only one in town. And we're also a community foundation, part of a movement of 191 community foundations across Canada. We're one of the larger ones. We essentially receive contributions from hundreds, if not thousands, of people throughout the community. We invest the money, preserve the capital, and make grants from the proceeds. And we've been doing that for 30 years now. We're the fourth largest community foundation in Canada. We make grants in 6 primary areas, only to registered charities. All our grants go to registered charities, and we also have a number of scholarship programs that provide aid directly to students. The largest one being the Belcourt-Brasso Métis Awards. That's for Métis students to attend any post-secondary in Alberta. So that's quite, there's several hundred students a year, but we also have a number of smaller scholarship programs. In terms of grants, we grant in 6 major areas: health, education, social services or community services, arts and culture, sports and rec, and the environment. And so we distribute several $1 million worth of grants each year to charities, mostly in Edmonton, but potentially to any of the 88,000 registered charities in Canada.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. It's helping a lot of people who otherwise would be doing without.
There's certainly that aspect, particularly in the social service area. That's our largest area for community grants, and that does help people who are down and out, who are disadvantaged, who have needs. But there's also a lot of quite exciting work in the arts and culture area, supporting some of our major institutions, but also smaller, more edgy arts and culture activities, and then a variety of other charities doing all sorts of both remedial and very much positive work in the community.
Well, how do you define social finance? I mean, there's a lot of other terms in the early stages of this kind of a movement, if you could call it that. You got social entrepreneurship, social enterprise, social economy, impact and benefit financing.
Yeah. Those are all interrelated terms. I like using social finance as the broad term that emphasizes the financing aspect. A term like impact investment focuses on the people or the institutions that make the investment and where that comes from, and I see social finance as the activity. Social finance finances social enterprises, or sometimes social purpose businesses. Around here, we try to think of it primarily through the lens of the purpose of it. Is there a genuine social purpose? And then the way in which the enterprise is set up, whether charitable, nonprofit, cooperative, even for-profit business, that's not as important as a clear social mandate, which I see as trying to do something it is very tricky to talk about it, but something outside the market, something that the mainstream market is not able or not willing or not interested in doing, that has a clear social purpose, but the method that one uses to address that social purpose is through an enterprise or through a business. And but it's the social purpose that in my mind is key rather than the specific way the enterprise is set up.
Could you give a couple more examples of things that would be a social purpose?
Yeah. There's a very interesting one that grew out of a social service organization in the West End here in Edmonton. They set up a separate business called Redemptive Developments. And their main project that they've developed over the last 2 or 3 years is recycling mattresses. And they have gone from doing a few thousand mattresses to doing tens of thousands of mattresses.
Wow.
They have contracts with the city, with universities, with hotel chains. And I don't know what the latest total is, but they're keeping hundreds of tons of stuff out of the landfill, and by separating and packaging it, it can be sold for real money.
Wow.
And so the revenue from those sales supports much of their other social service work, and the actual doing of the mattress recycling provides good jobs for people who would be unemployed otherwise. So it's got this dual purpose of revenue generation and employment generation. And that's kind of a classic example of one of the main types of social enterprises and the kind of things that we like to finance. So we have provided several loans to them over the years to purchase equipment, to provide operating capital and a variety of things, and we're very pleased with that. Another more concrete one that I'm particularly fond of because I love old buildings, we helped finance along with some commercial lenders the rebuilding of the Alberta Hotel that became the home for CKUA Radio.
Oh, right.
And it turned out that our financing ended up being interim financing because once the building was complete and it was all leased out, the banks were happy to take us out and we got paid back. And now we can loan the money out again. And that's the beauty of it from our perspective is as the loans are paid back, we can use the money over again. Grants are, of course, the main thing that we as the foundation do, but you can only use grant money once. Whereas social financing or making loans, when the money comes back, you can loan it out again. And so we've had that opportunity. One of the most recent loans that has an interesting dimension, again, of both revenue and employment. We financed the purchase of a Petro-Canada station by the Papas Chase Cree Nation.
Wow.
And in addition to providing about 20 full-time jobs for band members each year, it will also generate revenue that will that the band will use to continue their work with Ottawa to get their band re-registered and perhaps someday get their reserve back. The chief often talks about even if they don't get their reserve back from the government, they'll buy it back one parcel at a time.
Wow.
And the Petro-Canada station is actually on the land of their original reserves, so in South Edmonton. So that had the social purpose revenue, the employment, and also a real opportunity for us to live out our commitment to reconciliation with Indigenous peoples in our community. So that was kind of a triple win from our perspective.
So if I understand correctly then, the social finance helps a social purpose-driven social enterprise get running like a regular company, but the profits go back to social purposes.
Precisely. Some social enterprises are standalone. They may be started by an individual entrepreneur, or they may grow out of some other organization. Other social enterprises continue to be run by or under the umbrella of another charity or a nonprofit. And some social enterprises are organized as for-profit companies, but with a very strong commitment written into their incorporating documents that the profits will continue to be used for social purposes, and that they won't inappropriately enrich either shareholders or management or whatever. I think of, whether you think of it as social finance or social enterprise, I think of it as another tool in our toolkit. Mm-hmm. Okay, we've done granting ever since we were founded. We know how to do that really well, and that does a lot of good in the community, and it's good for a whole bunch of purposes. Right. But social finance is another tool that can do 2 or 3 things that are not so easy to do with granting. It can do bigger things than we, anyway, can do with granting. But we don't expect it to do things that it can't do, and it's important that neither society nor the government have unrealistic expectations about what this relatively new tool, I mean, conceptually it's not, I mean, it's been around for at least 100 years, but it's new to us here and now, and I think has great potential. It has much more potential than we've been able to realize yet, but it still won't, and indeed never will, be able to do everything.
Well, okay, so the social finance and social economy is definitely a part of the economy. It's a permanent fixture. What would it look like in the, let's say, another decade or two? What would be your hope, your vision for social finance in the world of the near future?
I would hope there would be more of it available. I would hope there would be more organizations offering different kinds and specializing in different aspects. And I would hope there, in another decade, there would be another order of magnitude of amount available. Like we've got, a few tens of millions available. I would hope that in another decade, there'd be hundreds of millions of dollars. And that would be enough. We don't need billions now because we don't yet have the capacity to use it. The second thing that I think will be equally important, and the time is maybe right to start developing that, we need the infrastructure organizations that can provide an interface between either the people or you can think about it as the money that wants or that could do this, and the people or organizations or enterprises that need the financing. There's very little in the middle, and so there are probably people out there who would make these kind of investments, who either have enough money or enough vision that they don't need to maximize their financial return with every dollar that they have. But there aren't a lot of very convenient ways that they can invest that money other than in for-profit ventures through the marketplace. And the for-profit market has developed a whole bunch of different ways. Yes. I mean, you can buy into actual companies through limited partnerships, or you can make equity investments directly in one company, or you can buy into all sorts of funds on the stock market, or you can buy exchange traded funds. You can invest online. You can invest $10 or $10 million. You can invest in RRSPs all sorts of different ways. There's virtually none of that in the social finance marketplace. And helping investors make wise investments, there are no bond rating agencies, there are no organizations that consolidate smaller loans into bigger loans and do all that stuff that we've developed in the sort of marketplace. So I would hope we begin to see some of that infrastructure develop over the next decade, because that will help more people invest, and it'll also help more people who need financing get financing.
How hopeful are you for social finance in the future? Will we be able to solve poverty, homelessness, racism, mental health issues?
I think there's room for social enterprise and social finance to contribute in all those areas. I don't, however, think that it's a magic bullet that's going to fix all that. And it goes back for me to this whole notion of charity. There are reasons why certain activities are charitable activities. They are, whether by definition or by the reality of the way the world operates, they are outside the market, and the market cannot supply them. They can only be supplied charitably. And so, you know, the classic example I use is you can finance mats in a shelter, but there's only one customer for that, and that's the government. Otherwise, it's charitable donations.
Do you have any last words or thoughts you'd like to share?
We're still small. We're still in startup phase, but just in my career, you know, let's say the 20 years since I've been doing a social enterprise, and the 10 years that we've been doing this explicit social finance, and we've seen, I would say, a growth of at least 1 or 2 orders of magnitude, and I see no reason for that to stop. You know, I don't know whether it'll be, you know, doubling every 10 years or an order of magnitude every 10 years, but it's definitely growing, and with that growth, more challenges and more opportunities. So my intention and hope is that we're in this for the long term, like everything else that we do at the foundation, and that we'll carry on with this for a good long time and help the community grow this capacity. We've grown, as a foundation, we've grown our granting toolbox quite a bit over the last, well, over our entire 30 years. But we're still not big enough even to do everything we want to do, much less everything that needs to be done. This additional tool of social finance lets us use a little piece of our assets to do something different, and to do a few things that we cannot do in any other way. So that's why we want to keep doing it.
Just for clarification for our viewers, if I have this correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, this Edmonton Community Foundation provides funds, or has provided funds, to this social enterprise fund, and
it's the Social Enterprise Fund is a program of the Community Foundation. We have a specific legal entity called the Alberta Social Enterprise Venture Fund, LP, which is a limited partnership, and we make our loans through the venture fund. Currently, the foundation has bought all the units in the fund. So we're the only investor in the fund.
I see.
But potentially, we look forward to welcoming probably other philanthropic investors. We're not expecting the kind of returns that would attract mainstream investors, but we think there are probably some people with a philanthropic bent who are interested in this work, who aren't in a position to give away money, but would invest it at modest returns because they like this notion and want to play in this space. We haven't yet reached out to them because we haven't yet gotten to our full commitment that we as the foundation made, so it seemed not necessary to expend resources trying to reach out to other investors. So, but you know, as we approach our 10% commitment, we will probably start looking at whether there are other people who might be interested in this work.
Okay, great. Thank you. We've been talking with Martin Garber-Conrad, Chief Executive Officer of the Edmonton Community Foundation, on the subject of social finance. My name is Randal Adcock, and you've been watching Impact, production of Wayfinders Business Cooperative.
Thank you, Randall.
Thank you, Martin.